Imagine understanding English not as rules or textbooks, but as a story unfolding around you, a conversation, a problem, a moment where words come alive. Welcome to Fluent English Journey, where every day you step into English the way it is really spoken. Here, we don't just teach English. We immerse you in real-life stories, everyday challenges, and human conversations. You will listen carefully, think naturally, and speak confidently, all while discovering how English flows in the world around you. From solving small daily problems to navigating work, school, or friendships, every lesson is a journey. You will hear it, understand it, and say it yourself. Step by step, story by story, you will unlock English that feels alive, simple, and real. So, if you are ready to stop translating, start understanding, and speak English naturally, hit subscribe and join the adventure. This is your journey. This is your English. Let's begin. Have you ever heard a sentence in English that sounded clear, but somehow your brain stopped and said, "Wait, what does that really mean?" And you felt confused, slow, or even a little scared to continue listening because the words were simple, but the meaning was hidden. And today on Fluent English Journey, I want to start with a moment like that, a very small moment, but one that changes everything, because this is how many English learners first meet idioms, and it often happens quietly. Without warning, when you are watching a video, listening to a friend, or hearing a movie line, and suddenly someone says something like, "I was over the moon," and you look up at the sky in your mind and think, how can a person be over the moon? Is that even possible? And in that moment, English feels strange, confusing, and unfair, even though the words are easy, and this story begins on a normal morning, a quiet one, the kind of morning where nothing special seems ready to happen. But something always does. I remember sitting with a cup of tea, the steam rising slowly, my phone in my hand, listening to a short English podcast, and the speaker was calm, friendly, speaking slowly, and I felt good, I felt confident, I understood almost everything. And then the speaker said, "When I got the job, I was on cloud 9, and I froze, not because the words were hard, but because my mind showed me a picture of someone standing on a cloud in the sky, and that picture did not help me understand the feeling." And for a second, I thought, maybe my English is not good enough. Maybe I am missing something important, and that small doubt is something many learners know very well, because idioms do that. They hide simple meaning inside strange pictures, and if no one explains them, they feel like a wall in your listening journey. But here is the truth, and I want you to hear this very clearly and very slowly. Idioms are not difficult English. They are not advanced grammar. They are not for special people. Idioms are just feelings and situations wrapped in short phrases. And native speakers use them every day without thinking, the same way you use natural expressions in your own language. And the problem is not you. The problem is that no one showed you how to listen to idioms as stories, not as words, and that is why this video exists, and why this part 1, is about the moment you first meet idioms, the confusion, the fear, and the slow change that happens when you finally understand them. Let me take you into a simple story, a story about a normal person, a normal day, and one idiom that opens a door. Imagine a young man named Adam, not special, not famous, just a regular person learning English. He wakes up early, checks his email, and sees a message from his manager, and the message says, "Good news, the project is approved." And Adam smiles, his heart feels light, his shoulders relax, and later that day, he tells his friend in English, "I am very happy today," and his friend laughs gently and says, "You are not just happy, you must be over the moon," and Adam smiles again, but this time he asks, "Over the moon?" and his friend explains slowly, "It just means very, very happy, and in that moment, something clicks, something changes. Because Adam realizes that English is not always about the dictionary meaning, it is about emotion, and when he understands that, listening becomes easier, warmer, more human. Now let us stay with this idiom, over the moon, and listen to it again, very slowly, over the moon, and I want you to forget the moon in the sky, forget space, forget science, and instead think about the feeling, a big happy feeling. A feeling that lifts you up, that makes you smile without trying. When someone says, I am over the moon, they are saying, I am extremely happy, but in a more colorful, emotional way, and native speakers love this, because it feels alive, it feels like a small story in one short line, and this is how idioms work, they are tiny stories. At first, idioms feel like secrets, like a private language that only native speakers know, but once you learn them, you start to feel included, and this is very important for confidence. Because confidence in listening does not come from understanding every word, it comes from understanding the feeling, and idioms are full of feelings, happiness, sadness, surprise, fear, hope, and we use them in daily life, at home, at work, with friends, and even with strangers. And today, in this first part, we are not trying to learn many idioms, we are trying to change how you listen to them. Let me ask you something and think about it quietly. When you listen to English, do you try to translate every word in your head? Do you stop when one sentence feels strange? Do you feel lost when the picture in your mind does not match the words? If yes, that is okay, that is normal, and this video is for you. Because from now on, when you hear an idiom, I want you to ask a different question. Not, what does this word mean? But, what is the feeling here? Because idioms live in feelings, not in grammar books. Let us hear another very common idiom, one that appears almost everywhere, in videos, movies, conversations, and that idiom is break the ice. And again, if you listen with a beginner mind, you may see ice, cold, maybe winter, maybe a frozen lake. But in real-life English, no one is talking about ice. They are talking about the first moment of talking, the first step, the moment when people feel shy, quiet, nervous, and someone says or does something to make everyone relax. That is breaking the ice. And once you understand that, the sentence suddenly feels warm and clear. Imagine two people meeting for the first time, sitting in a room, quiet, not sure what to say, and then one person smiles and says, "This weather is crazy today, right?" And they both laugh, and the silence is gone, the tension is gone, the ice is broken. And this idiom is not special English, it is daily English, and you hear it again and again once you start noticing it. And this is another important step, noticing, because idioms were always there, you just did not see them clearly before. On Fluent English Journey, our goal is not to push you fast, not to fill your head with rules, but to walk with you slowly, like a friend, through real English, and idioms are part of real English, not something extra, and when you begin to enjoy them, listening becomes less stressful, more playful, and even fun, because every idiom feels like a small puzzle, and solving it feels good. Let us slow down and listen to a short, natural conversation. Imagine it clearly. Two friends talking after work. One says, "How was your day?" The other sighs and says, "It was a piece of cake." And again, cake appears in your mind. Sweet, soft, delicious. But the feeling here is easy, smooth, no problem. So a piece of cake means something was very easy. And notice something important here. Native speakers do not stop to explain this. They expect you to feel it, and that is why learners often feel lost, but now you are not lost, because you are learning how to listen. I want you to notice how these idioms are used, not loudly, not with drama, but quietly, naturally, mixed into daily speech, and that is why listening practice is so important. Reading idioms is helpful, yes, but hearing them in stories. Hearing them in flow is what makes them stick in your memory, and this video is designed exactly for that. Long listening, slow rhythm, simple words, repeated ideas, so your brain can relax and absorb. Now let us talk about fear for a moment, because fear is often hidden behind listening problems. Fear of not understanding, fear of falling behind, fear of feeling stupid, and idioms can increase that fear if you see them as enemies. But what if you see them as friends? What if every idiom is just a shortcut to understanding emotion faster? And when someone says, "I am feeling under the weather," instead of thinking about weather, rain, clouds, you simply feel tired, sick, low energy. And you move on, listening continues, flow continues, and you stay inside the story. This is the transformation we want, from stopping and translating to flowing and feeling, and it does not happen in one day, but it starts today, right now, with awareness, with patience, and with repeated listening, and that is why this is a long video. Not a short one, because language needs time, like a journey, not like a race. Before we slowly move toward the end of part 1, I want you to sit with this idea. English idioms are not tests, they are invitations. Invitations to understand how people feel, how they react, how they see the world, and when you accept that invitation, you stop fighting the language and you start walking with it, step by step. In the next part, we will move closer to home, family, and daily life, and you will hear idioms used in simple situations, morning routines, small problems, happy moments, and you will notice something beautiful. You already understand more than you think. You just needed the right way to listen. So take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and remember this one sentence as we close part 1. When English feels strange, do not panic, just look for the feeling. Because behind every idiom, there is a human story, and on Fluent English Journey, we learn English one story at a time. 2. Everyday life, everyday idioms. The funny thing about idioms is that once you start noticing them, you realize they were always around you, hiding inside normal conversations, especially at home, with family, in daily routines, in small moments that feel simple and ordinary. And that is exactly where we begin part 2, not in big offices or dramatic events, but inside the quiet rhythm of everyday life, because real English is not only spoken on stages or in movies, it is spoken in kitchens, living rooms, phone calls, and short chats that last only a few minutes, and idioms live comfortably in these places. Imagine a normal morning. The kind of morning that feels the same almost every day. You wake up, maybe you feel a little tired, maybe the alarm was too loud, maybe you did not sleep well, and someone at home asks you, "How are you this morning?" And you reply honestly, "I am a bit tired," and they smile and say, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed," and again, here comes that strange picture, a bed, a side, right side, wrong side, but no one is really talking about the bed. They are talking about your mood, your feeling, and this idiom simply means you are feeling a little angry, upset, or unhappy for no clear reason. And once you know that, the sentence feels friendly, not confusing. Now pause for a moment and listen to how natural this sounds. No explanation, no pause, just normal speech, and this is how idioms enter your life. Quietly, gently, and if you miss them, the conversation still moves on, but if you catch them, you feel closer, more connected, like you are part of the group, and that feeling of belonging is very important in language learning. Let us continue this morning scene. Imagine you go to the kitchen. Someone is making tea or coffee. The smell fills the air, and you say, "I have so much work today," and a family member replies, "Take it easy, one step at a time," and then adds, "Don't worry. You will get the hang of it," and this idiom, "get the hang of it," is another one learners often hear but do not fully feel, and it simply means to learn how to do something, to become comfortable with it, and notice how kind this idiom is. It carries encouragement, patience, support, and when you hear it, you are not supposed to stop and think. You are supposed to feel calm. This is something very important I want you to remember. Idioms often carry emotion more than information. They tell you how the speaker feels about the situation, not just what is happening, and when you listen for emotion, your understanding becomes deeper, even if you miss a word here and there. Now imagine a different daily moment. Maybe in the evening, everyone is tired, dinner is late, someone is hungry, a little angry, and one person says, "I am so hungry. I could eat a horse," and again, your mind may stop and say, "Wait, a horse? That is impossible." But English does not care about logic here. It cares about feeling, and the feeling is strong hunger, very strong hunger, and no one expects you to imagine a horse. They expect you to imagine that empty feeling in your stomach. This is why translating idioms word by word often causes problems, because idioms are not logical sentences, they are emotional shortcuts, and native speakers use them because they are fast, expressive, and shared. Everyone understands the feeling instantly. Let me share a small family story to make this clearer. Imagine a mother talking to her child. The child wants to go out late at night, and the mother says, "You have school tomorrow. You should stay home." And the child argues, complains, keeps asking again and again. And finally the mother says, calmly but firmly, "That is the last straw." And this idiom sounds serious, and it is serious, because it means this is the final problem, the final moment, no more patience, and again, no straw, no physical object, just a limit that has been reached. When you hear this idiom in real life, the feeling is clear, stop now, and understanding this feeling is more important than understanding the words, because the meaning lives in the emotion. Now let us move to another very common daily idiom, one that people use when they talk about money, shopping, or decisions, and that idiom is "cost an arm and a leg." And imagine someone coming home with a new phone or new shoes, and someone asks, "How much was it?" And they reply, "It cost an arm and a leg," and again. This does not mean body parts. It means very expensive, and the speaker may feel a little pain about spending that money, and that feeling comes through the idiom. Notice something interesting here. Many idioms use strong pictures, arms, legs, horses, straw, clouds, but the feeling behind them is simple, and once you accept that, listening becomes smoother. Because you stop fighting the pictures and start accepting the emotion. Let us slow down again and listen to a quiet conversation between siblings. One says, "I am nervous about my exam tomorrow," and the other replies, "Relax, you have studied a lot, you will do fine," and then adds, "Just don't overthink it." And overthink is not exactly an idiom, but it works like one, because it describes a common human habit, thinking too much, and then the sibling smiles and says, "Break a leg," and if you hear this for the first time, you might feel shocked. Why would someone say that? But in English, break a leg means good luck, especially before something important, like an exam, a performance, or a big moment. This idiom shows us something very important about English culture. Sometimes people use opposite words to express support, and this is why context matters, tone matters, and listening as a whole matters, not just single sentences. On Fluent English Journey, I want you to feel safe when listening, safe to not understand everything, safe to guess, safe to feel the meaning instead of translating, and these daily life idioms are perfect practice for that, because they appear again and again, in small, low-pressure moments. Now imagine a family dinner. Everyone is talking at the same time, laughing, sharing stories, and someone starts telling a long story. too long, with too many details, and another person gently laughs and says, "Okay, get to the point," and this idiom simply means, say the main idea, the important part, and this is a very common phrase, very direct, but not rude when said with the right tone. Tone is another key part of idioms, because the same idiom can feel warm or cold depending on how it is said, and listening carefully helps you feel that difference. Let us talk about mistakes for a moment, because daily life is full of small mistakes and idioms often appear there too. Imagine someone breaks a glass, spills tea, or forgets something important, and another person says, "No worries, these things happen." And then adds, "It's no big deal," and while "no big deal" is not a traditional idiom, it functions like one because it reduces the problem, makes it smaller, and helps everyone relax. And sometimes, when someone makes a bigger mistake, another person may say, "You dropped the ball," and this idiom comes from sports, but in daily life, it simply means you made a mistake or missed a responsibility. And again, the picture does not matter. The feeling does. I want you to notice how often idioms are used to manage emotions, to calm, to warn, to encourage, to joke, and that is why they are so important for listening, because if you miss them, you miss the emotional message, even if you understand the rest of the sentence. Now let me ask you something gently. When you listen to English conversations, do you feel tired quickly? Do you feel like your brain is working too hard? One reason might be that you are trying to understand English like math, step by step, but English, especially spoken English, is more like music, rhythm, tone, feeling, and idioms are part of that rhythm. Before we slowly move toward the end of part 2, let us revisit a few idioms you heard, not as a list, but as feelings. Over the moon is deep happiness. Wake up on the wrong side of the bed is a bad mood. Get the hang of it is learning comfortably. Eat a horse is strong hunger. The last straw is no more patience. Cost an arm and a leg is very expensive. Break a leg is good luck. Get to the point is say the main idea. Drop the ball is make a mistake, and notice how human all of these are. These are not academic ideas, they are daily life. And this is the realization I want you to take with you. Idioms are not decorations in English, they are tools for daily emotional communication, and once you start hearing them this way, listening becomes lighter because you stop trying to catch every word and start catching the story. In the next part, we will step outside the home and into work, routines, and daily responsibilities, where idioms appear again, sometimes softly, sometimes strongly, and you will see how they shape professional and casual English at the same time. So for now, take a breath, maybe listen to this part again later. Let the phrases wash over you. No pressure, no rush, because fluency grows quietly, like a habit, and you are already on that path. 3. Work, routine, and the language of daily pressure. Life slowly moves forward, and after home, after family, after those quiet morning and evening moments, English follows us into another very important place. Work, study, daily responsibility, and this is where many learners feel the most pressure. Because work English sounds serious, fast, and sometimes cold, and idioms appear here too, very naturally, very often, and if you are not ready for them, they can make you feel lost, even when you understand the topic, and that is why part 3 is about listening to idioms in work and routine, not as difficult expressions, but as human reactions to stress, effort, success, and failure. Imagine a normal workday, not special, not dramatic. You sit down, open your computer, look at your tasks, and you already feel a little tired, and someone asks you, "How is everything going?" And you reply honestly, "I have a lot to do." And they smile and say, "Yeah, we all have a lot on our plate," and again, here comes that picture, a plate, food, too much food. But no one is eating, they are talking about responsibility. too many tasks, too much pressure, and this idiom is everywhere in work English, because modern life is busy and people often feel full, mentally full. Now notice how this idiom does not complain loudly, it simply shares a feeling, and when you understand that feeling, you feel closer to the speaker, because you feel the same thing, and this is how idioms build connection, even in professional situations. Let us stay in this office or study space for a moment. Imagine a meeting, people talking, planning, discussing ideas, and one person starts explaining a problem in a long way, and another person gently interrupts and says, "Let's cut to the chase." And this idiom may sound strange if you hear it for the first time, because chase means run, catch, but here it simply means, let us talk about the most important part, the main issue, and this idiom is very common in meetings, emails, and discussions. And again, the key is not the picture, but the intention. The speaker wants clarity, focus, time saving, and when you listen for intention, idioms become clear. Now imagine you are working on a project, maybe with colleagues, maybe alone, and something goes wrong. A file is missing, a mistake is found, a deadline feels too close, and someone says, "Okay, don't panic, let's take it step by step," and then adds, "We will figure it out," and later, when the problem is solved, someone smiles and says, "That was a close call," and this idiom means the problem almost became serious, but it did not, and this feeling of relief is very common at work, and idioms help express that relief quickly. Let us talk about effort now, because work is full of effort, trying, pushing, continuing, even when you feel tired, and English has many idioms for effort. Imagine your manager or teacher says, "You really went the extra mile on this," and again, miles. Distance, walking, but the meaning is clear. You did more than expected, you tried harder, and this idiom carries praise, appreciation, and when you hear it, you should feel proud. Now imagine the opposite situation. Someone is not trying, not helping, doing the minimum, and another person says quietly, "He is just cutting corners," and this idiom means doing something in the easiest or cheapest way, often not the best way. And again, the feeling is mild criticism. Not anger, just observation. Notice how idioms help people speak indirectly, politely, without strong words, and this is very important in work culture, where direct criticism can feel rude. Let us move to another common daily routine, deadlines, time pressure, clocks, calendars, and idioms appear here all the time. Imagine someone looks at the clock and says, "We are running out of time," and that is clear. But then they add, "We need to beat the clock." And this idiom means finish before time ends, and it creates a sense of race, pressure, urgency, and you feel it immediately. And when the deadline is very close, someone may say, "We are down to the wire," and again, wire, physical object, but the feeling is the same, last moment, no time left, and these idioms help express stress quickly. Now imagine a more relaxed moment. After work, people talking about their day, sharing stories, and someone says, "Today was a roller coaster," and this idiom describes a day full of ups and downs, good moments and bad moments, and it is very common, because many workdays feel exactly like that. Let us pause and notice something important. Work idioms often come from physical actions, sports, travel, movement, because work is seen as action, effort, movement, and these idioms make abstract ideas feel real. Now imagine you are new at a job or a course. You feel unsure. You ask many questions, and someone smiles and says, "Don't worry, you are still learning the ropes," and this idiom comes from ships and sailing, but today it simply means learning how things work. And it is often said with kindness, patience, and support. This is important for learners, because when you hear this idiom, it is not an insult, it is reassurance, and understanding that emotional tone helps you feel comfortable. Let us talk about success for a moment, because work is not only stress, it also has success, achievement, moments of pride. Imagine a team finishes a project, everyone is tired, but happy, and someone says, "We nailed it." And this idiom means did something very well, perfectly, and the feeling is strong confidence, satisfaction, and joy. And sometimes, success comes after struggle, after many tries, and someone says, "It was tough at first, but we turned things around." And this idiom means changed a bad situation into a good one. And again, the picture is movement, change, transformation. Now imagine a mistake happens, and it is serious, and someone says, "Okay, we messed up," and then adds, "But there's no point crying over spilled milk," and this idiom means there is no use feeling sad about something that already happened and cannot be changed. And this idiom often appears when people want to move forward, not stay stuck in regret. Work life is full of these moments, mistakes, fixes, pressure, praise, and idioms help people move through them smoothly, emotionally, without heavy explanations. Let me share a small story to bring this together. Imagine a young woman named Sarah. She is working on her first big project. She feels nervous, excited, scared, all at the same time, and on the first day, she makes a small mistake, and she feels terrible. But her colleague smiles and says, "Hey, don't sweat it. Everyone makes mistakes," and this idiom, "don't sweat it," means don't worry too much. Relax, and in that moment, Sarah feels lighter, safer, more confident, and this shows how idioms can change emotional atmosphere at work. Now imagine later, after weeks of effort, long days, late nights, the project is finished, the manager says, "You really pulled it off," and this idiom means you succeeded. You did it, and Sarah smiles, because she understands not just the words, but the feeling behind them. This is the transformation we are working toward, understanding English not as isolated sentences, but as emotional flow, and when you reach this stage, listening becomes less tiring because you stop analyzing and start feeling. Before we move toward the end of part 3, let us reflect quietly. Work English is not cold English. It is human English, full of stress, hope, fear, pride, and idioms carry those emotions efficiently, and once you become familiar with them, you feel more confident in meetings, conversations, and daily routines. And here is the takeaway for this part. When you listen to English at work or in daily responsibility, listen for pressure words, time words, effort words, because idioms often hide there, and when you catch them, you catch the real message. In the next part, we will go deeper inside the human heart, into emotions, feelings, reactions, where idioms become even more powerful, more colorful, and more expressive, and you will see how English speakers talk about love, fear, anger, happiness, and sadness in simple but creative ways. For now, let your mind rest. Maybe replay some parts. Let the rhythm settle, because fluency grows when listening feels safe, and you are doing very well, one step at a time, on Fluent English journey. 4. Feelings, emotions, and the hidden language of the heart. There is a place where English becomes very soft, very human, and very real, and that place is emotion, because feelings are something we all share, no matter where we come from, and idioms live deeply inside feelings. They help people talk about happiness, sadness, fear, anger, love, and hope without long explanations, and that is why part 4 is one of the most important parts of this journey, because when you understand emotional idioms, you do not just understand English, you understand people. Imagine a quiet evening. Someone sits alone, thinking about their day, and a friend calls and asks, "How are you feeling?" And the person pauses and says, "I don't know, I'm feeling a bit down," and this expression, feeling down, is very common, very gentle. And it simply means feeling sad, low, or unhappy, and notice how soft it is. Not dramatic, not strong, just honest, and this is how many people talk about emotions in English. Now imagine the friend listens carefully and replies, I get it. Sometimes life gets you down, and again, the same idea, pressure, sadness, but spoken with understanding, and idioms help create this emotional connection because they feel shared, familiar, safe. Let us move to a different emotion, happiness, not loud happiness, but warm, quiet happiness. Imagine someone shares good news, maybe a small success, and another person smiles and says, I'm really happy for you. That made my day, and then adds, I'm on top of the world right now, and this idiom means extremely happy, full of joy, energy, confidence, and again, the picture is height, being high, but the feeling is clear. Notice how many happiness idioms use images of height, up, sky, world, because happiness feels like lifting and sadness feels like falling, and English reflects that feeling naturally. Now imagine a moment of surprise, something unexpected happens, good or bad, and someone says, I was caught off guard, and this idiom means you were surprised, not ready, and the feeling is a sudden change. And this expression is very common in emotional conversations. Let us talk about fear for a moment. Fear is something people do not always like to talk about directly, so idioms help soften it. Imagine someone hears bad news and says, it sent shivers down my spine. And this idiom describes a physical reaction to fear or strong emotion, a cold feeling, and again, the words paint a picture, but the meaning is emotional. And sometimes fear is mixed with worry, long-term worry, and someone says, I can't stop thinking about it, it's eating me alive, and this idiom sounds strong, but it means worry is slowly hurting your peace of mind. And people use this idiom when they feel overwhelmed by thoughts. Now let us talk about anger, because anger in English is often expressed indirectly, not with shouting, but with phrases. Imagine someone says, that really gets on my nerves, and this idiom means something is very annoying, and again, the feeling is clear. Irritation, discomfort, and this idiom is very common in daily speech. And when anger becomes stronger, someone might say, I lost my temper, and this is not exactly an idiom, but it functions like one, because it describes emotional control breaking, and this phrase appears often in emotional stories. Now imagine a moment of relief, after stress, after worry, after fear, and someone says, I can finally breathe easy, and this idiom means the pressure is gone, the problem is solved, and the body relaxes. And this feeling of relief is something everyone understands deeply. Let us pause and think about love and care, because English has many gentle idioms for affection. Imagine a parent talking about their child and says, he means the world to me, and this idiom means the child is extremely important. More important than anything else, and again, world, big picture, strong emotion. And in friendships, someone may say, I've got your back, and this idiom means I support you, I will help you, you are not alone, and this phrase carries deep trust and comfort. Let us move into disappointment now, because disappointment is part of life, and English expresses it softly. Imagine someone tries something new and fails, and they say, it didn't work out, but I'll get over it, and get over it means recover emotionally. Move on, heal, and this idiom is very common in emotional conversations. Now imagine heartbreak, stronger sadness, and someone says, my heart sank when I heard the news, and this idiom describes that heavy feeling in the chest when something bad happens, and again, the picture is movement, sinking, falling, and the emotion is clear. Notice something important here. Emotional idioms often describe physical feelings, heart sinking, spine shivering, breathing easy, nerves, because emotions are felt in the body and English reflects that truth. Let me share a simple emotional story to bring this together. Imagine a young man named Daniel. He is waiting for an important message. His phone is quiet, his mind is busy, and he feels nervous. His friend asks, "What's wrong?" And Daniel says, "I'm on edge." And this idiom means feeling nervous, tense, unable to relax, and his friend listens and says, "Whatever happens, I've got your back." And in that moment, Daniel feels less alone, supported, calmer, and this shows how idioms can change. Emotional space between people. Later, when Daniel gets good news, he laughs and says, "I was worried for nothing. Now I feel like a weight has been lifted." And this idiom means the worry is gone, and the body feels light again, and the emotional journey is complete. This is why idioms are so powerful in emotional listening, because they carry emotional movement, from stress to relief, from sadness to joy, from fear to calm. Before we slowly move toward the end of part 4, I want you to reflect on this. When you listen to English, especially stories, conversations, movies, podcasts, pay attention to body words, heart, nerves, breath, spine, weight, because idioms often hide there, and when you catch them, you catch the emotion. Here is the realization for this part. Understanding emotional idioms is not about memorizing phrases. It is about recognizing human feelings, and you already understand those feelings in your own life. So English becomes easier when you connect to that shared experience. In the next part, we will talk about problems, mistakes, life lessons, and the idioms people use when things go wrong, because that is also a big part of real English, and you will see how idioms help people accept, learn, and move forward. For now, take a moment, breathe slowly, maybe listen again, let the emotions settle, because language lives in feeling, not in rules, and you are learning to feel English naturally. 5. Problems, mistakes, and lessons learned. Life is full of small problems, big mistakes, unexpected situations, and in English, people often use idioms to describe these moments, not only to explain what happened, but also to share feelings, lessons, and sometimes even humor, and that is why part 5 is about listening to idioms in challenges, difficulties, and learning moments, because real English does not hide from problems, it talks about them, and idioms make it easier, lighter, and human. Imagine a normal day. You plan something, a small project, maybe cooking, maybe schoolwork, and something goes wrong. A friend or family member looks at the situation and says, "Well, that didn't go as planned," and then adds, "Everything happens for a reason." Here we see two things. First, calm observation. Second, an idiomatic expression about fate or learning from mistakes. English often wraps advice in idioms. It feels softer, easier to hear, and less direct than a lecture. Now imagine someone spills coffee on an important document. A colleague might smile and say, "Don't cry over spilled milk." If you take it literally, it makes no sense. Milk is already on the floor and crying won't change it, but in English, this idiom simply means, don't waste energy on things that cannot be changed. The lesson here is calmness, acceptance, and moving forward, and notice how naturally this appears in everyday conversation, not only in classrooms or textbooks. Mistakes at work, school, or home often bring small worries. Someone might say, "I really dropped the ball today." Again, the picture is confusing if you think literally, but the meaning is clear. A responsibility was missed, or a mistake happened. And after the mistake, people often add a softer expression, "We'll pick up the pieces." This idiom gives hope. It shows that even if something breaks, we can fix it. English speakers love idioms because they carry emotional comfort, not just information. Let us imagine a story to make this more vivid. A young woman named Emma is learning English. She tries to cook a new recipe, burns the first attempt, drops a pan, and feels frustrated. Her friend calls and laughs gently. Well, you live and learn. This idiom sounds simple, but it carries a philosophy. Mistakes teach lessons, they are part of life, and they are normal. Emma smiles, feels lighter, and tries again, and in this moment, the idiom has changed her emotional state. It gives her courage, a reason to continue. Problems can also be sudden. Imagine a sudden meeting at work, deadlines changing, and someone says, "Things are thrown at us left and right today." The idiom shows overwhelming situations. English uses movement, images, and direction in idioms because it is easier to feel pressure through pictures than abstract words. You might not know every word in the sentence, but the meaning of stress and chaos is clear. Let us listen to another situation. Imagine a small team trying to solve a problem. One idea fails, another is confusing, and someone finally says, "We need to think outside the box." Again, this idiom is very common. Box means limits, boundaries, and the speaker encourages creativity, new ideas, open thinking. Idioms often guide behavior, not only describe it, they are gentle teachers. Sometimes, idioms are funny. Imagine a student who always forgets homework. A teacher smiles and says, "You're always up to your old tricks." The idiom shows repetition, mild annoyance, humor, and understanding. It is not anger, just playful observation. This is important in emotional listening. Tone and situation make the idiom feel soft, strong, happy, sad, or funny. Now let us move to life lessons. Imagine a small problem, like losing a bus or being late. A friend might say, "Every cloud has a silver lining." This idiom is gentle, optimistic. It reminds people that even bad situations can bring something good. English often hides encouragement in idioms. Listening carefully allows you to catch these tiny lessons. Let me share a short personal story. A man named Liam misses an important meeting. He feels nervous, frustrated, and worried. His colleague smiles and says, "Don't beat yourself up. You did your best." Beating yourself up is an idiom meaning blaming yourself excessively. Liam understands, relaxes, and later learns from the mistake. Idioms like this teach lessons about patience, self-compassion, and emotional balance. Sometimes problems are ongoing, small daily challenges. A student says, "I have a lot on my plate," similar to part 3. But today, it feels heavier because everything is piling up. Another student says, "Let's take it one step at a time." Idioms in repeated challenges help guide behavior. They are emotional road signs, helping you decide how to feel and act. Small victories after mistakes also have idioms. Imagine finishing a difficult task. "We pulled it off." Pulling it off means succeeding, often after effort or challenge. Or, if something unexpected succeeds, someone says, "Against all odds, it worked." Idioms convey the story of struggle and success in a few words, and your brain begins to see English as storytelling, not just communication. Now consider learning itself. Mistakes in English are normal. A teacher may say, "You're getting the hang of it." Hang of it, as we learned, means becoming comfortable, understanding, mastering slowly. Idioms themselves often teach the learner patience. They repeat ideas gently and naturally, without formal explanation. Before we close part 5, let us reflect. English idioms are not just phrases, they are tiny stories, emotional shortcuts, and lessons hidden in words. They allow speakers to express problems, mistakes, relief, hope, humor, and human connection in a natural way. When you listen for the feeling, not the literal words, you begin to understand English as it is really spoken. The takeaway here is simple but powerful. Mistakes, challenges, and lessons in English are opportunities to hear idioms, understand emotion, and connect with people. Each idiom you notice strengthens your listening, your understanding, and your confidence. In the next part, we will focus on speaking naturally, storytelling, and how to use idioms like a native speaker, turning all the listening you've done into words you can speak, practice, and feel. 6. Speaking naturally, using idioms like a storyteller. So far, we have listened, we have imagined, we have felt English through idioms, from happiness to fear, from mistakes to work pressure, and now it is time to take the next step, speaking naturally. Part 6 is about using idioms in your own speech, not just understanding them in stories or conversations, but feeling them, letting them flow out of your mouth like part of a story. Because speaking English like a storyteller is not about memorizing words, it is about emotions, rhythm, and connection. Imagine you are talking to a friend and you want to describe your day. Instead of saying, "I was very happy," you could say, "I was over the moon today." Instead of saying, "I made a mistake," you could say, "I really dropped the ball." These small changes do more than sound natural. They carry emotion, tone, and color, and your listener understands much more than the literal meaning of the words. Storytelling in English is about sequencing events, creating curiosity, and adding emotion. Let us practice a small story together. Imagine a boy named Tom who is trying to fix his bike. He struggles, feels frustrated, and his friend watches. Tom says, "I don't know what to do. This is impossible." His friend laughs and says, "Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it." Tom tries again. The chain falls off and he sighs. Then his friend says, "Well, every cloud has a silver lining. At least we are learning." Finally, the bike works and Tom exclaims, "I nailed it." Notice how the story uses idioms naturally to show frustration, learning, hope, and success. This is how native speakers use idioms. They are part of the narrative, not separate phrases. Now imagine telling this story in your own words. The key is to slow down, feel each emotion, and place the idioms where they naturally fit. Don't force them, let them come from the story. Over the moon for happiness, dropped the ball for mistakes, every cloud has a silver lining for hope, nailed it for success. Each idiom paints a moment in your listener's mind, making your English alive. Another technique is repetition. When you speak, repeat the idioms in slightly different ways. I was over the moon because I finally finished my project. I really dropped the ball, but I learned a lot. Every cloud has a silver lining. I know I can do better next time. This repetition helps your brain remember not only the words, but the feeling, and your listener feels the story clearly. Let us talk about casual conversations now, because idioms are everywhere in small talk. Imagine meeting a friend after a long day. Instead of saying, "I am tired," you could say, "I'm beat." Instead of, "I am hungry," you could say, "I could eat a horse." These phrases are short, friendly, and carry emotion, and using them makes your speech sound natural without thinking too hard. Now, practice combining idioms with storytelling. Imagine a weekend trip that did not go perfectly. You could say, "The trip was a roller coaster. First, I was on cloud 9 because the hotel was amazing. Then I was under the weather after eating something bad. But in the end, we pulled it off and had a great time." This sentence shows highs and lows, happiness, frustration, and success, all with idioms that fit the emotional story. An important part of storytelling is curiosity. When you start a story, give your listener a hook. Instead of saying, "I went shopping," you could say, "You won't believe what happened at the store today." This simple hook creates interest. Then, sprinkle idioms naturally. "I got carried away and bought too much. It cost me an arm and a leg, but I was on cloud 9 with my new things." Notice how the story flows, how idioms create rhythm, and how speaking naturally becomes easier. Another tip is reflection. After telling a story, reflect with a small idiom. Well, live and learn, right? Every cloud has a silver lining. These short phrases connect your story to a life lesson or shared emotion, making your speech feel complete and human. Native speakers often do this without realizing it. It makes conversation more personal and memorable. Now let us practice connecting idioms in a story about work. Imagine finishing a difficult project. We were up against the clock, but everyone went the extra mile. At first, I was on edge, but in the end, we nailed it. I was over the moon. Notice how the story uses idioms to show pressure, effort, tension, and success. This is storytelling in English. It is alive, emotional, and expressive. One more tip is rhythm and tone. Idioms often have natural stress on certain words. Over the moon, stress rises on moon. Dropped the ball, stress rises on ball. When you speak with natural stress and slight pauses, your English sounds fluid, not forced. Practicing storytelling with idioms slowly helps you internalize these rhythms. Let us imagine a personal story of friendship. My best friend always has my back. Last week, I messed up badly at work. I was so worried, but he told me, don't sweat it. His support helped me get over it, and now I'm back on top of the world. This small story uses idioms naturally, shows emotions, and feels human. You can practice telling your own stories in the same way. Before we close part 6, remember the key steps. Listen first, feel the idioms, notice the emotion, place them naturally in your story, repeat them slightly differently, use hooks and reflections, and practice tone and rhythm. Storytelling is not only about fluency, it is about connection. Idioms are the bridges that make your English feel alive, emotional, and human. The takeaway is simple. Start small, use 1 or 2 idioms in your next story, then build slowly. Over time, your English will sound natural, expressive, and confident. Listening, feeling, and speaking idioms together transforms your learning into real communication. In the final part, we will reflect on the journey, review the most important idioms, and connect everything into a complete understanding that you can carry forward in daily life, making your English fluent, natural, and joyful. 7. Reflection, review, and the journey forward. We have come a long way together, listening to English, feeling it, exploring stories, and learning idioms in real life, work, emotions, and daily problems. Part 7 is the reflection, the review, and the connection of everything you have heard so far into a single, clear, and practical understanding. This is where all the pieces, the feelings, the rhythm, the stories, the pictures, and the emotions come together to help you listen and speak English naturally. Let us start by thinking back to the first idioms we heard in part 1, like over the moon and break the ice. At first, they felt strange, confusing, maybe even impossible. But now, after listening, imagining, and practicing small stories in your mind, these idioms are no longer strange. They are feelings, experiences, and tiny stories. Over the moon is happiness. Break the ice is making a start in a nervous situation, and both are part of daily life, not complicated English rules. This is the first realization. English idioms are about human experience, not logic. Next, we remember part 2, where we explored home and family life. Idioms like wake up on the wrong side of the bed, get the hang of it, eat a horse, the last straw, and cost an arm and a leg are part of everyday conversation. You saw them in simple, calm, and emotional situations. The lesson here is noticing and feeling them. Idioms are everywhere. If you listen carefully, you will hear them in kitchens, living rooms, and casual talks. In part 3, we explored work and routine. Idioms like a lot on your plate, cut to the chase, close call, go the extra mile, cutting corners, beat the clock, down to the wire, nailed it, and don't cry over spilled milk showed us how English expresses effort, pressure, success, and mistakes. The key learning was observing emotional tone, not just words. These idioms make English alive, fast, and expressive, and when you hear them in stories or at work, your understanding grows naturally. Part 4 took us into the heart of emotions: happiness, sadness, fear, anger, love, and relief. Idioms like feeling down, on top of the world, caught off guard, shivers down my spine, lost my temper, breathe easy, means the world, and I've got your back carry emotion. Here, the lesson is powerful. Listen for feelings, physical reactions, and emotional shifts. English idioms often describe how people feel in their bodies, hearts, and minds. In Part 5, we learned about problems, mistakes, and life lessons. Idioms like don't cry over spilled milk, dropped the ball, pick up the pieces, live and learn, up against the clock, think outside the box, and every cloud has a silver lining help people express challenges and learning moments. Listening for these idioms teaches patience, resilience, and understanding. English is not about avoiding mistakes. It is about expressing them, learning from them, and sharing the experience. Part 6 was about speaking naturally. You learned how to take all the idioms, feelings, and stories from listening and start using them in your own words. The key steps are simple. Listen first, feel the idioms, notice emotion, use them naturally in stories, repeat slightly differently, use hooks and reflections, and practice tone and rhythm. Idioms are not decorations. They are bridges between what you feel and what you say. Now, let us reflect together. Fluent English is not memorizing lists or translating word by word. It is about stories, rhythm, emotion, and human connection. Idioms are everywhere, in kitchens, offices, friendships, love, mistakes, successes, and daily life. Listening, feeling, and using them naturally transforms your English. Your brain begins to think in English, not translate. Your ear catches emotion, your mouth repeats it naturally, and your confidence grows quietly. To help you remember, here is a short review of the most important idioms we explored, not as a list, but as feelings. Happiness, over the moon, on top of the world, nailed it. Mistakes, dropped the ball, don't cry over spilled milk, pick up the pieces. Effort, go the extra mile, get the hang of it. Pressure, a lot on your plate, up against the clock, down to the wire. Emotions, feeling down, shivers down my spine, breathe easy, I've got your back. Surprises, caught off guard, break the ice. Lessons and hope, live and learn, every cloud has a silver lining, think outside the box. As you listen again and again, notice how these idioms appear naturally, without drama, quietly, like small stories inside conversations. Your job is simple. Feel them, repeat them, use them in small stories, notice tone, and practice. Slowly, fluency grows. Finally, take a deep breath and imagine your journey. From confusion in Part 1 to family life in Part 2, work challenges in Part 3, emotions in Part 4, mistakes and lessons in Part 5, and speaking naturally in Part 6, you are now ready to continue, listen, speak, and enjoy English without fear. This is not the end. It is the beginning of seeing English as a living, emotional, human language. The final takeaway: English idioms are keys to feelings, stories, and connection. Listening carefully, imagining naturally, and speaking with emotion transforms your English from words on a page into life, rhythm, and expression. Every idiom you notice is a step forward. Every story you tell is a step closer to fluency. Every feeling you recognize is a step into understanding real English. You are on the journey. Fluent English journey continues every day. Keep listening, keep feeling, keep speaking, and enjoy every small idiom, every small story, because this is how English becomes yours, naturally, fully, and joyfully. This concludes our full 1 to 1.5 hour cinematic English listening and storytelling script on idioms used in daily life.